What's going on, guys? Stefan, S&E's Garage. Today we're going to hit the ground running. We're going to go ahead and install an oil catch can on this 2016 Lexus GSF. Alright guys, so the catch can that we ended up going with here is from RR Racing. This will work for your RCF, your GSF, and your IS500. An oil catch can is always one of the first go-to mods that I do on any of my cars, especially those that have GDI or gasoline direct injected. This has the Toyota D4S injection system, so we do still have port injectors to help keep those intake valves clean, but I like keeping as much oil and hydrocarbons and water vapor, and I like keeping all that crap out of my intake manifold. It's going to help keep your intake cleaner, your intake runners cleaner, your throttle body cleaner, and it's actually going to raise the octane of your fuel because all of that oil that gets introduced into the intake through the PCV system is actually very easily combustible, and like I said, it will lower your octane rating, and that'll actually cause your car to pull timing and hurt performance. So a catch can is an all-around win-win. It's going to keep your intake clean, it's going to help keep your fuel octane up, it's going to prevent spark knock, and it's going to increase horsepower. So let's go ahead, pop the hood, just get right into it. So before we pop the hood here, we're just going to go ahead and show you what this kit here comes with. Here you're going to have your bracket and your thumb screws and everything. This is basically what we're going to be using to install it. Here we have our hoses and some clamps. And over here we have our can itself, which appears to be it's relatively nicely made. Here's the thumb screws here. Those are the bolts that we're going to use to install it. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so the first thing you're going to want to do here is familiarize yourself with the engine bay. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and take off this engine cover, and this just pops right off like so. There are 4 locating rubber grommets, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they sit on studs that come up off of the intake manifold. So like I said, we're going to go ahead and pull that out of the way. And the next thing we're going to want to do is locate our factory PCV hose that goes into the intake. If you look dead center of the intake where the throttle body is, you're going to see one vacuum hose coming up. That is from the evap system from the purge valve. You're going to want to locate the hose, the large hose to the right of it that goes directly into the intake right over here. So let me take the camera off and show you exactly what I'm talking about. You're going to be locating this guy right here, this large one. So that's going to be the hose that we are going to be focusing on. So now that you know where that is, we're going to move over here and we're going to remove this bolt and this bolt here from your electronic camshaft actuator. This is on the driver's side bank. So we're going to go ahead, remove these 2 bolts, and then we're going to go ahead and set the bracket up. So this is a 12mm bolt that we are going to go ahead and remove. And then the second one is also a 12mm. Alright guys, now once you have these bolts removed, you can go ahead and discard them. You're not going to need them again. The kit is going to come with new bolts and spacers that you're going to be using to install the bracket. Alright guys, so you're going to want to orient your bolts and your spacers like this on the bracket. And then we are going to go ahead and slide this bracket down into place around the upper radiator hose and wire harness. Alright guys, so we have our bracket here set up. This wire harness is going to be in your way a little bit, so I unclipped it from here, and then I also unclipped it from down there, right where you see that clip. I already clipped that back in, but that is going to give you a little bit more wiggle room to go ahead and get this in. So now we're just going to go ahead, snug these down, and make sure that our wires are not getting pinched anywhere. This is your final product here. We have these nice and tightened down. Your new bolts are going to be a 13mm hex head, so make sure you don't try to use the 12 because it won't work. So now we're going to go ahead, we're going to start routing our hoses. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull this PCV hose. Again, it is this big guy here. We're going to go ahead, there's a little clamp back there, you'll see it, a little spring clamp. I'm going to get some needle nose pliers, pull that off, and pull this thing out forward towards us. So I'm just going to make myself a little bit of room here. I'm going to go ahead and take this breather here off of the air snorkel, like so, and I'm just going to go ahead and set that aside like this. I'm just going to try to sneak it under this wire harness so it stays. And now I'm going to go ahead and use my needle nose pliers to go ahead and get that out. Okay, so we're going to pull that back. And now we should be able to get this out. If you have to, grab a pair of pliers and just get in here just to break the seal like I just did. And now this should, as so, come right out. Now there is something here that I feel is fairly necessary to show you. So let me just get these hoses out of the way and I'm going to show you what we're talking about here. So here's the PCV hose. Here's where it goes into the intake. Take a peek inside of that intake. Look at all that oil. This PCV system is dumping oil into the intake. And that is what this air oil separator is going to help reduce and prevent. Alright guys, so the next hose we're going to need here is the hose with the very large end. It's kind of comical how big this is. But we're going to go ahead and slide that over the nipple where we removed the PCV valve from. Alright guys, so it's been a couple of weeks since we started doing this install because I actually had a problem getting this hose onto that nipple, and I actually ripped my original hose trying to do it. Now I reached out to the guys at RR Racing and they told me that what their technicians do is they'll actually use a 14 millimeter half-inch socket. I just had it out. I guess I must have put it away. It's out somewhere. But what they'll basically do is they'll jam that 14 millimeter half-inch socket into the hose and let it sit for a little while. And what that'll do is just stretch the tip of this hose out just a little bit and give it enough stretch to go ahead and clear. So you'll see we have our hose in now. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to start putting these other hoses that we removed to make this install a little bit easier. I'm going to start plugging them back in, and then we're going to go ahead and go to the next step. Alright guys, so your last step here is going to be to go ahead and screw your catch can into the bracket. This sight glass should face the front of the car, and you'll see that there is a little black magic marker dot on the input side, which is right there. So now, once you do that, you just run your hoses. This hose on the left is going to go right into the intake manifold, so the large one we put on the intake manifold goes here. And then on this side you have this weird elbow that's going to go ahead and plug into the hose that goes down to the PCV valve under the intake manifold. So once you're done with that, you're basically done with the install. I'm just going to go ahead and slide my engine cover back forward and into place. And then we're just going to start the car, check for vacuum leaks, and listen for any abnormal noises or sounds. Alright guys, we got our engine running. We're just going to go ahead and put our hands here around these fittings. We're going to make sure we don't have any vacuum leaks. We're just going to listen. Everything appears to be good, so we're just going to go ahead, take it for a ride, make sure everything's okay. And that's going to be it for this video. So if this video helped you install a RR Racing catch can on your Lexus GSF, ISF, IS500, RCF, or any Lexus F car with the 5-liter V8 that I might have missed, I don't think I missed any, but if it helped you, please like, share, and subscribe. And we will see you next time. The only thing that you are going to want to do is check this guy periodically. I'd recommend checking it within the first 1,000 miles. How often you have to empty it is really going to completely depend on your driving style. So if you drive a little heavier and you're in the higher RPM band more often, kind of like we are, you're going to want to check it more often. luckily they make it nice and easy with this little ball valve there. So again, like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.